Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
You're frozen, Joe. Are you there? Hey, you were frozen for a second. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Joe.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, great. All right, perfect. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tips and Tricks for How to Look Good Naked and Why you should love yourself even if you don't. Justin's telling me that I have a frozen face. Thank you, Justin. So I have a new setup here, so I may have some technical difficulties. We'll have to see how that goes. But thanks, everybody, for joining in. And let me welcome Amber. Hi, Amber. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How's the week going? Do you have anything great to share or celebrate? Any big celebration this week?
I will say that I was kind of in a funk yesterday, and I attended some Clubhouse calls today, and that really got me back on track. So I'm jazzed up for tonight's call. I feel like I've got to make a couple decisions for my business that involve some financial obligations. So it's kind of like I've been making progress, slowly, but once I make these decisions, it's likely to snowball. And so I just allowed all that doubt and the fear to come in play, which we all have, and the overwhelm and doing the what if down thinking instead of what if up thinking, what if this doesn't work instead of, realizing my dreams. So had a little minor funk, out of it now. So excited about tonight's call.
Okay, me too. So that's funny because I've been in a little minor funk this week as well. And this morning I woke up re-energized and excited for tonight's show. And I thought the same thing. Really all of the things that are hindering me are based on my own lack of decisiveness. And I feel the same way. I said, I'm going to step up my game. And I woke up and I've had a great day so far. So we're like minds think alike.
Awesome.
So Courtney's on the show. Courtney joined in. So hi, Courtney. Courtney is actually a health coach as well and a wellness coach. And hi, Courtney. Welcome to the program. It's great to see you. So there's a delay on my comments here. So I'm gonna bring Courtney up. And saying hello. Hello. It's great to see you. So let's talk about, I'm excited to talk about tonight's episode. And I'm going to pose, we'll talk about, let's get into I think the sleep, which is really important. And I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Must have a delay here.
I thought it was me and the technical difficulties.
No.
My hair.
So, sleep, guys, is absolutely critical. Like I would say we have 4 main pillars, although there's 7 steps to healthy lifestyle. There's 4 main pillars, and that is the food you eat, the water you drink, movement, and sleep. So none of the other 3 things are going to actually work for you if you don't throw in the 4th one. So a lot of us have this need. I know I do. Let me say personally, I was always about how much can I fit in the day? And I only need 5 or 6 hours because I feel totally rested then. But come to find out, our hormones don't get rebalanced. And when we're talking about weight loss, it's a hormonal game. It's 100% hormones. So everything gets assimilated. Your body heals from the day's catabolic activities every time you go to bed at night. So it is absolutely imperative. So I did just a quick little search to see what the top 10 things are that getting a good night's sleep. And when I say a good night's sleep, for some people in there, they're going to say, I feel very rested with 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And I'm sure that you do, because your body has gotten accustomed to surviving on 4 or 5 hours sleep. They did a study, I believe, in 2018, and they said that basically 76% of our population is sleep deprived because they have been going on 6 hours of sleep or less. And when they did a study, a driving study, that it shows that you are legally drunk when you are sleep deprived. So it's just like consuming, 0.08 or whatever the legal limit now is for drinking. You are that dangerous when you are sleep deprived. So what I would encourage people to do is to not everybody's an 8-hour night. I promise you that you need to be at least 6. 6 is like the absolute bare minimum. But just experiment, trial and error of what works for you. Try sleeping 6, try sleeping 7, try sleeping 8. Some people are 9 and 10 hours. It's really depends on your age, your amount of physical activity, how rested you are, just a cumulative effect. One thing I want to throw out there, you cannot make up on sleep. If you party all weekend, or you have a great weekend, or you work hard, that's typically the way it goes. We work hard all week, we get to bed late, and then we think, I'm just going to make up for it this weekend. And so we sleep like 10 hours each night. But do you ever feel better the next day? Like, ever, really? Generally, when you make up on sleep, you feel very lethargic, slow moving. I know I have a couple that I trained that this is what they do every week. Every week it's a mile a minute and steady, probably 18-hour days, rock solid on the go. And then they just spend each weekend, they call it their me time, but they're basically just, laying around sleeping. So it's a vicious cycle that just wears your body down. It eventually wears it down.
So I agree. And even for me, on the occasions, I'm one of those 6 hours a night people. I've never needed a lot of sleep. I used to be a 4 or 5, but I have up my game, and I do sleep 6, 7. But once I get to a certain thresholds, and I think that and it's similar with the catching up, I can't lie there for 8 hours, 9 hours. I feel worse than when I'm trying to catch up, because it's just not efficient or effective for my body. And I just feel, like a fog almost in my brain. I can literally feel it.
I'm the same way. I'm the absolute same. And that's what they say, that if you're having trouble sleeping, the worst thing you can do is just lay in bed and pray that you go to sleep. Like, your bed is a sacred place. So you should only be in there when you're sleeping. It's not a place that you do work. It's not a place that you watch TV. Although I know that's probably the common norm. I know personally, I watch TV in bed before I go to sleep. So do as I say, not as I do, because I don't always have the best, habits around getting ready for bed. For instance, one of the big things that you need to do is eliminate screens, all blue screens, which is your TV, your computer, your phones. Now, on my phone, I have an app that once the sun starts to go down, it will change the light from a blue light to a yellow light. And you can actually get those for your computer screen and for your TV. But the blue light is the light that is just so destructive to us going to sleep at night.
And what is that? Is that in relationship to the circadian rhythm? They say that our body's on an internal clock, and it really is dictated by that cycle.
Absolutely. So if you think about it, we have only had lighted evenings for probably the past 100 years. Okay, since the invention of the light bulb. Before that, when the sun started to go down, we gathered to our homes and we went to bed shortly thereafter. There wasn't a lot of activities that you could do, past dark. You couldn't read, stuff like that. So it's only been since we come home and we turn on the lights, the lampshades, the TV, the computer screen. We've got all this light coming to us when our body is actually generally starting to produce melatonin. So melatonin is not your sleep hormone. It's your get ready for sleep hormone. So when we have these blue screens, primarily the blue screens, now one little tip to counterbalance the blue screen is you can use a red light bulb. Doesn't have to be a special red light bulb, just any red light bulb, and that will counteract some of the blue light. There is actually a Can you hear my dogs barking in the background?
Yeah, but they sound cute. They're giving us some flavor.
Sorry about that. There is some research on there, and I have tried this 2 nights in a row, but for me, I have to have darkness, like complete darkness. But there is a light therapy, which you use a red light bulb. Hold on one second. Let me close my door.
All right, so I'll answer your question, Justin. Do you need an alarm clock to get up, or do you get up on your own? I'm somebody who gets my own, not need an alarm clock to get up. So that's my comments are delayed. But I think too, Justin, that mothers stay up for 2 a.m. a lot because they're really busy during the day, and a lot of times they need a minute to themselves. So, and that's a cycle that really happens to mothers, and almost most of their day catering to other people, and then the only downtime they have is late at night when everybody else is sleeping. But it really impacts their well-being, but it's just lifestyle really dictates how much sleep mothers get oftentimes.
Something else that I wanted to mention, and I'm sure everybody knows, that caffeine does affect your sleep. It's not about just caffeine, let's say a couple hours before bed, because what most people don't realize is caffeine has a half-life. So let's say you feel the effects of it for 4 hours. I can guarantee you it's actually in your system for 8 hours. So that 2 o'clock in the afternoon cup of coffee or pick me up is actually going to be in your body much longer than that. So you need to keep in mind the caffeine half-life. Definitely want to cut that out. I would also avoid rigorous exercise right before bed. Not that there aren't workout routines that are soothing, that put your body in like a yoga routine that puts your body in more of a relaxed state, but your HIIT cardio, your strength training, that's a very catabolic activity that is spiking your cortisol levels. And so when your cortisol levels are high, your melatonin levels are low. So we want those melatonin to start producing as soon as the sun starts to go down. So anything we can do that is non-strenuous, something that is more of a relaxed state of, just like a yoga, a breathing, something like that.
That's interesting. I think, yeah, for me, sleep, of course, everybody. And I think as you age, I think when you're young, it's funny because when you're a teenager, you want to sleep for 15 hours. Then in your 20s, you don't want to sleep at all. And then as you age, and I think that it progresses, and then we really cherish and welcome sleep oftentimes. I mean, I love to sleep. I'm not a napper, but I do enjoy a good night's sleep now. So I think it's so cyclical in relationship to our age and our chronological well-being.
I would recommend, if anybody out there has an Apple Watch, and I don't know if the Fitbits do this, but I would assume most of the digital watches, there's always apps that you can get to track your sleep. So I started doing that a couple months ago, and it's ironic that I may be asleep for, let's say, 7 hours, but if I look at the actual rested time, which means the time you're in REM sleep, you're healing, it may only be 4 or 5 hours. So just because we're sleeping for 7 hours doesn't mean we're getting that healing resources for that 7 hours. So I would recommend people track your sleep. It'll tell you, your resting heart rate, how long you were rested versus in your REM sleep, if there was any disruptions.
So the Fitbits do that because mine does it. I've never tried it because I don't typically like to wear a watch to bed, but maybe I'll give it a shot this week and see what it does. And I want to go back to, we always want to build on the steps that we have. And,
right.
We've spoken about hydration and water. I mean, how does water impact sleep?
So keep in mind that water is our number one filtration system. So all of the toxins that we build up during the day, whether that's lactic acid from our workouts or just the toxins that we're breathing in from not necessarily clean air, the foods that we're putting, none of those toxins are eliminated unless we drink the water at night. Now, I would recommend, if you are not accustomed to consuming large amounts of water, I would try to consume it in the first half of your day. I know that can be difficult and it sounds like you're going to overload on water, but we want to eliminate large consumptions of water about 2 to 4 hours before bedtime, unless you are going to get up and go to the restroom multiple times a night, which for me, I actually do. I do. It doesn't matter how early I quit drinking water, I still do.
And if you're going to, and if you are going to be trying the water thing, it definitely happens. Even same thing for me. So Justin has a good point, and he's bringing up. He's asking if we take sleeping pills. I don't. But do they work? I think they do work, but it's artificial, and actually some of them you become dependent on. I don't believe the over the counter ones, but I do think that it detracts when you're relying on anything that's not a natural remedy. I mean, do you agree, Amber?
So I can speak from both sides of the track on this, guys. For years, I have been on a medicated, I am no longer, but for 30 years, I was prescribed a medication to go to sleep every night for 30 years. And you could not have argued me for not taking that for nothing. I went to bed at I knew when I was going to bed. I knew I was going to bed within an hour and a half after taking that. I slept through the night. I maybe a little tired when I got up, but keep in mind, I was put on this at 14. So did I really know what it felt like to sleep normally? I just this year got off of all prescription medications, and it was like anything else, you go through withdrawals. For a while there, I was waking up about every 2 hours, which I can tell you is probably the worst sleep I ever got. I would rather sleep 4 consecutive hours as opposed to 8 hours waking up every 2. It's a nightmare. So what happens is, although it does put you into a sleep state on a regular, like consistent basis, it interferes with your REM sleep. So your healing sleep, it actually doesn't allow you to get in the REM sleep as well as what you think you are, because you feel like you're out, but it does interfere with the healing. So I would never tell somebody not to take something that is going to help them. If you have a chronic sleep disorder and you've tried all the other, remedies or whatever, then absolutely try something. But yes, they are highly, highly addictive, whether they prescription, they're over the counter, they're highly addictive, not to the point that you're going to get, you're going to feel physical withdrawals like you would from another type of drug. Let's say sugar. If you take sugar, you're going to feel the physical withdrawals. You're going to feel the withdrawals because you're going to have several weeks, like I experienced, where your sleep is not good. And guys, when your sleep is not good, it interferes with your memory, with your concentration. It decreases the amount of dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine that you're going to produce during the day. And those are all 3 of our happy, I love life hormones that we want to release. So it will decrease the amount that it's also linked to, obviously, you eat more. You actually eat more calories. Studies show you eat more calories when you don't get enough sleep. You choose foods that tend to be a high carb and sugar low, because you're wanting that energy that you don't realize that you needed. It will interfere with your athletic performance. It's linked to depression. Getting good sleep is actually what boosts your immune system. So what do they tell us to do every time we get sick? Take this medication and go home to bed, right? Well, that's not because we just feel like crap and that's the only thing we get to do. Sleep is the number one thing that's going to build that immune system back up. So it is absolutely imperative. Now, somebody mentioned taking something. I've mentioned these products before. They're called Viseo. They have a sleep medicine. I don't know if you can see that. Moving it the wrong way. Sorry, I'm so dyslexic. It's a spray. You just put 2 sprays in your mouth at night, and it's got vitamin B2, B6, a proprietary blend which includes GABA, N-acetylene, and melatonin. And then this product for the Viseo products have what's called a liposomal patent process. So when they formulate their supplements, all the supplements that need to go to the brain. So I don't know if any of y'all are aware of this, but our brain is floating around in this substance that is our blood-brain barrier. So nothing passes that blood-brain barrier unless it's wrapped in fat. So this is my big complaint with the supplement world is I've been into supplements for 14 years now. That unfortunately, I don't care how clean that you eat. It doesn't matter how great you eat. It is virtually impossible to get the micronutrients that we need from our food these days, based on the way our soil has been processed over and over, based on the big agricultural, the uses that they use to get more food, mass food, bigger food, you know what I'm saying, more bang for their buck. It's just impossible. So this supplement is the first one that has a liposomal process. So, and it's patented. So every supplement that is intended for the brain is wrapped in several layers of fat. And so during the digestion process, you're going to lose a layer or two, but it still has enough on there so that it passes to the brain. So that it's just a very unique thing. So I do take this at night. It's not something that I take 2 sprays and it's like I'm out. It's you'll feel a little drowsy, but it's not anything like a over-the-counter medication that you would take where you're going to instantly within 30, 45 minutes feel the effects of it. This is just kind of like in the physical world, it's a way of turning out all the lights, having no sound. And it's kind of like that signal to your body that, okay, it's time to start producing melatonin and get ready for sleep time.
So it's interesting that it's effective and it's a spray as opposed to it's almost like a miraculous process. The fat wraps around a liquid substance. I find that very intriguing. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, their products are, and if anybody is interested, they have product. They actually do have weight loss products. I don't generally recommend those for my clients. I know that sounds crazy, but I would much rather introduce people to a healthier lifestyle. And then if we need some assistance, then we can go that route. But I would much rather just get you into a healthy lifestyle of eating and moving and drinking the water. And then we can go another route. There's no sense in throwing all the bombs at the cavalry from the jump start.
So now we're at, so now we've discussed all of, is that our final step? Sleep is our final, is the final number 7?
Community.
Oh, all right.
Last
one more. And then we can tie it all together. But and then I actually got a question this week, and someone was speaking to me, and they were going to pop on, but they weren't able to, from a different perspective, where she is actually during COVID, during the past year, and it really wasn't COVID related at all, but she was diagnosed with cancer. And she's a slight woman already, and she's in remission, but now she's at the point where she needs to gain weight in a healthy manner. And most often, she typically doesn't eat a lot of sugar because she lives a very healthy lifestyle, but it's very difficult to gain weight without sugar. So she's going to ask us, how do we go about?
I can sympathize with her. So, people think that it's a blessing to, for it to be difficult to put on weight. But I promise you guys, it is just as frustrating, if not more, to be consuming mass amounts of food and then you just can't gain that shape that you're looking for. And if you do, you're gaining it in areas that is just unpleasant. So it doesn't make you feel better. So I have been able to tackle this throughout my life. So when I get really depressed or I get really stressed, instead of generally gaining weight, I typically lose it. So I struggle to keep muscle mass on. It's very easy to gain fat. That's very easy. That's in our stomach and our fat, the areas that we don't want to see it. It's very easy, but it's not easy to gain muscle mass and maintain it. So tell her to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help her.
Okay, great. I will do that. And Justin's asking if if I wear earplugs if someone is snoring, and actually I'll put that up there because yes, I do. If I'm traveling, if I'm traveling with someone that I don't typically travel with and they're a snorer, I'll use the foam earplugs because I'm someone who I really need. I'm such a light sleeper. And I need quiet. And so I wear the foam earplugs oftentimes if anybody's around. And I can still hear, so it doesn't totally drown things out, but it gives me just a little bit of an edge that I used to be. I needed complete silence. Before I had children, I needed complete silence and complete darkness. I couldn't sleep. But now I can sleep with a nightlight on, but I still like complete silence. So the earplugs are my go-to.
I haven't dated anybody that snores in over a decade, so I don't really know what that is like. Although I'm so obsessed with my dogs, it's not healthy. But they actually have like a mild snore. It's really just kind of like them breathing, but I actually need to hear that at night. Don't ask me why, but like I need to hear that them sleeping next to me. But other than that, you're right. Like I will have an overhead fan going, which has somewhat of a noise to it. But there's been a lot of research out there that if you use one of those white noise devices, and to me, I have found that so disturbing. Like that white noise to me is so disturbing. I have tried going to sleep. Like there's multiple apps. I'm drawing a blank on the name of them. Calm is one. Insight Timer, I believe, is another one. And they have a lot of sleep meditations where you can go to sleep with like the sound of a rainforest or the sound of waves on a beach. Even that I found kind of disrupts it. It will relax me, but I just feel like it interferes with me going to sleep, even those things like that. But I think
They
that's a
actually
personal
have.
preference.
Yeah, I agree. They also have things like that on Spotify if you have a Spotify membership that you can just play. But let me ask you this. Let's take this up a level because I think that really throughout the nation, sleep apnea is becoming so common and it's really I find that I don't know what your thoughts are and I don't know the medical diagnoses, but most of the people I know who have sleep apnea also live very their lifestyles are not as healthy as they would like to be. I think that there's weight gain that contributes to that, and that's not in every case, but I think that does lifestyle impact sleep apnea. I think that that's a question.
100%. Believe it or not, guys, I would, and I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not, making any factual necessarily claims, but based on my experience in the last 14 years of doing this and the loads of research, which I read about, I geek out about the health and fitness. So I read about this stuff every day. Pretty much all of our major killers in the United States, which is heart disease, diabetes, and obesity, even even cancer, they're all lifestyle related diseases. All of them. There's a 3% genetic rate that you're going to get something because somebody in your family had it. It's a lifestyle choice. So what they're finding is that people with sleep apnea, what has increased their chances of having that has been over a decade of being sleep deprived. So over a decade of sleeping less than 6 hours, which further makes you gain weight. You don't want to exercise then, which leads to the weight gain, all the other healthy habits, which they're not wanting to exercise, they're not wanting to move. So yeah, it's 100% lifestyle. We tend to think, especially in our 20s and 30s, that we can burn the candle at both ends and burn the midnight oil, but we're really not doing ourselves any favors. We're really not. So yes, it is 100% lifestyle. 100.
Okay, well, I don't know. Yeah, people with sleep, who anybody listening may not appreciate us saying that, but I agree that there's certainly a deep correlation and a link there. I'm convinced that all cancers are lifestyle related because as I was speaking about, this woman is very, and unless it's I'm not sure. I mean, she's very, very athletic, and I've spoken to people and I've interviewed them on the show. They're very runners and vegans and other people who eat only protein sources. And I think that sometimes cancer is random in my perception because I also know people have smoked till 90 and don't get cancer either. So I think I'd love to read some science on that. I think I'm going to take a look at that and see. So I think that there are instances, and certainly lung cancer. There's no argument that's linked to lifestyle. I think that breast cancer sometimes is as well, but I'm not 100% convinced that there's a direct link in every instance.
I will tell you probably the number one most toxic thing that leads to illnesses. It has led to in my personal opinion, a severe drop in our own immune system. And that is our thoughts. thoughts can, in fact, I'm reading a book right now by Joe Dispenza called You Are the Placebo. And he has got case after case after case in there of patients that are told they're getting this knee surgery or they're getting this new drug that, is going to cure whatever they have. And in all actuality, it's just saline or a sugar pill. And they have 100% complete, supernatural remission. In his workshops, he's got people that have been blind since birth, or blind, have a problem with their eyesight, halfway through life, people with Hashimoto's disease, paraplegic, got up and walked. And it's all about controlling our mind. So if we can put ourselves in a state of 100% gratitude for what we already are. So for me, that's very difficult. It is very, very difficult for me to think, or for me to stay in a state of how would I feel once I have achieved this. But in his workshops, he's got people and he hooks them up to all kinds of different heart monitors. And I mean, they measure everything from your head to your toe. They measure it all. And all of this all the tests show just miraculous supernatural healing just when we can get our mind and our heart in like a sync. We can genuinely heal things. So I believe our toxic thought, and one of the reasons why I bring up COVID is because, when COVID happened, we had the mass media and the government officials on there telling us, stay in your houses, wear a mask, we're closing everything down, we're putting the fear of God. If you would have told the American people 18 months ago that they were going to get a vaccine, how many people do you think would have showed up for that vaccine? None. Absolutely none. But you lock them in their houses. You cut off all of their social gatherings. You even cut off church. We're going to cut off church. You make them wear a mask, which I won't even get into that argument of how just extremely unhealthy. There's even research that shows that a mask does not prevent disease from transferring in a surgical room. So my mentor, Sean Stevenson, did a short little film, and you can get to it by going to Mask Facts. So MaskFacts, Facts, the Model Health Show /Mask Facts. It is so, so incredibly intriguing. If somebody could put that in the comments. He researches it all the way back from when we first started wearing masks. So hundreds of years ago. And then he literally cites study after study to show whether it has proven to be beneficial. But then he takes it a step further and he talks about the mental and social problems that our youth, we're going to be experiencing this for years to come. Because if you think about it, our face is the number one determiner of how we determine if somebody's a friend or foe. So we're taking that ability away from our youth. I could go on for hours about that, but I definitely go to Model Health Show /Mask Facts and watch. It's like a 45-minute documentary. I assure you will learn something.
So I think that certainly that's a debate that could be endless, and there's both sides of the spectrum. And I respect everybody's right to choose whether to wear a mask, to get the vaccine. And I certainly see both ends of the spectrum. But I want to speak too about what you said about the mind and controlling. And as you know, I just finished up my certification to be now I'm a clinical hypnotherapist.
Oh, you're certified now. Congratulations.
Thank you. And part of this study was, and I found it very interesting, that the origins of hypnotherapy, and I don't know if you know how it began, was because back when, and I'm not going to recall the year right now, but at the time, 80% of the people before anesthesia, 80% of the people who came and were required surgery died from the pain. And then they knew that they needed to come up with something, and hypnotherapy was, and I believe it flipped the script almost identically once hypnotherapy came onto the scene, that 20% of the people died and 80% of the people survived, and really with no medication at all, just with the hypnotherapy and the mindset techniques. I believe it too. So I think that the mind is very important, and I like to see this. I'm going to bring up that Adam wants to be hypnotized. So that's perfect. I've actually thought about maybe doing a show on hypnotism, but I got to get a little bit more practice. Maybe Adam will be one of my practice clients.
Hey, I'll be more than happy to be one of your clients. I've been hypnotized probably 24 times. I'm not kidding. I actually have a hypnotherapist that is on speed dial. I absolutely love it. If for no other reason than it is very difficult for me to get into that extremely relaxed state to where my conscious mind is not controlling the ball game. And a hypnotist has the ability, whether it's the environment, their soothing voice, music, whatever. I used it the first time. I used it almost 20 years ago to quit smoking, and it worked. It worked.
It's worked for it's worked for many people I know. It worked for me. I was hypnotized. I've been hypnotized several times, and it doesn't always work. I think that you have to have a very good hypnotherapist.
Your mind too.
Yeah.
How willing are you willing to accept the possibility that this can help? Because if you shut it down and you think this is not going to work, how somebody, then no, your mind will control it. You're right. But yes, having a good hypnotherapist, I absolutely agree.
So the first time it was very, very effective, and the second time not so much. But I didn't believe in her ability as much as I did the first individual. So I think that's why I really want to become very proficient in it. And exactly it. Nobody can be hypnotized. All hypnosis is actually self-hypnosis. We're just guiding you into hypnosis, and you have to believe in it, and you have to really be able to get yourself into a state of meditation and relaxation and just be guided there. So it's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to moving forward with that. So I think
I want to make one comment to Justin. I probably shouldn't say this. I respect everybody's opinion about our government.
I'm going to stop, because let's remember that Justin's a teenager.
Gotcha.
And he's
okay. You're right. I knew I probably shouldn't have said it anyways. Yeah. Thank you. My little right hand conscious on my shoulder.
And many of his, his parents really help guide his decisions. So we're going to leave that there. So let's talk about what's next for us. We have these 7 steps. Let's recap. Let's remind everybody of what they should be doing. And I think that they should all be tied in and building on each other. And we're coming into step 8, and then it'll be interesting to see. I think now that we put them out there, and hopefully this week I'm going to spend some time getting our Facebook group up, and I'd love to start the process over again, and really this time if we could shadow somebody and model somebody. And Randy, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to come on every week, but maybe that should be our goal. Let's find some people. And I also want to put out about the movement, something else that we talked about this week on a different show that we spoke about. And this might actually play into next week. So next week is community. Did you say next week is community, Amber?
Yes, it is.
All right, so I'm going to hold off. I'm going to hold off because that really pertained to community and really getting some virtual groups together and supportive people. So let's hold on that. But let's recap and let's remind everybody where we should be.
Okay, so the first one, guys, is literally the most important. I know they're all important, but breathing, what we do when we get stressed or we're in pain and our cortisol spikes is we tend to have very shallow breaths. So we're not getting oxygen to all the nerves in our body, and we get constricted. It's like being dehydrated. We get constricted. We experience even more of the symptoms that we're trying to alleviate. I can't tell you how frequently when I go to the gym and I see people lifting heavy weights, they're inevitably holding their breath. Like, that's not going to get the weight up there for you. I promise. Take a breath. So the first step is breathing. I do have my apologies. I do have a free breathing class that I will get in the Facebook group so people can attend it. It happens every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The second step is hydration. It's how we get rid of all of the toxins in our body. It's how all the cells communicate. It's the oil in our engines. It is required. The third is nourish. So we've got to put the healthy foods in our system. We've got to give it the, the vitamins, the minerals, the proteins, carbs, and the fats that we need. The fourth step is movement, grateful movement. So this is exercise. I heard a quote recently that, what is it? I have to think about it. It was genius too. Oh yeah, movement is medicine and motion is lotion. So it's what keeps all of our parts functioning. If you have somebody that is paralyzed, you will often find somebody that is going in there and moving their joints and their muscles so we don't add to atrophy, so we don't just decay even more. We have to have movement. It's kind of like sitting a bike outside. It's going to rust. We have to keep it oiled and repaired. So the movement is required. It's also movement is what gives us the muscle, and the muscle is what keeps us from falling and breaking our hip when we get older. And then the fifth step is breath, water, meals, motion is detox, declutter, and cleanse. So after we've added all of the things that we need, the breath, the water, the good food, the movement, now we start to take away. And the reason why we don't take away from the beginning is because if your body is already not getting what it needs, you're typically eating or drinking things that are doing something for you. You're not drinking it just for any random reason. It's providing energy. It's making you feel good, or you think it's making you feel good. So before we take away all of this stuff, we want to provide the body with the necessary stuff. Then the sixth step is sleep, which we covered today. It's imperative for everything to assimilate, for all the moving parts to work together. And then the final step is community, which we'll get into next week.
All right, perfect. I'm looking forward to that. And I think so great. We got all of our physical components down. I think that let's talk a little bit about self-love. I mean, we're into the last 15 minutes, and I think we talked a little bit about mindset and that frame of reference. And just like we were both said, we were in a funk today. And I think that oftentimes that, and I certainly am not speaking for people who have clinical depression or things of that nature. I mean, we're not trying to replace anybody who needs more therapy or guidance than we can give, but turning your life around, really, it's not necessarily the implementation that can be more difficult, but I think recognizing and really going back. And I think about oftentimes it emanates in childhood. And when you think about yourself as a young child and the children around you, if you can identify and pinpoint the time that you believe, or in NLP, we say you made the decision to feel as if you're unworthy, and go back in time and look at it from a perspective of looking down at a little child being berated by their parents. I mean, when you're an adult and looking at those scenarios, you will recognize that obviously there couldn't be no fault of your own. You were young and innocent and childlike, and you have to remember to treat yourself as kindly as you would someone else at any age. And I think that it really starts with the decision that you make, the decision that you're worthy. And I'm not suggesting that it's as simple as that, but the decision is as simple as that.
I agree. I realized I went to an event, virtual, obviously, this year. It was a business event, but it turned into be a very spiritual event for me, at least. And what I realized is that although it may have started because my dad was never around, he moved across the country when I was young, and he just always was more concerned about money than his children. So what I realized is that put me in a cycle of feeling or needing that external validation. So I was always going to get the next degree because he valued academia, or the next certificate, or the next thing I could hang on my wall, the next medal around my neck, for everybody else to say I was worthy, but I never felt worthy. And so it doesn't matter all of the outside things that we do. At the end of the day, it's like buying a new car. It's great for a week. Not that you don't love your new car, but you only have that new car feeling for like a couple days or a week. So it's the same thing. It has to start with our self-love. So I do believe that everything happens for a reason, and that during that event, it was, like I said, it was a pretty miraculous event. And it was kind of like during this 1 hour conversation I was having with God. It's kind of like he opened up a window and he allowed me to see his bigger picture. And I realized right then and there, every single thing that had ever happened to me that I thought was just a tragedy and was maybe the worst decision I could make at the time, it all had to happen. Like it all brought me to where I am today. Like if I would have been missing just one of those components, regardless of how treacherous it was to go through it and how low I felt, I wouldn't be the person that is able to help the amount of people that I help today. But I didn't recognize that until I had fell in love with myself. And it's sad to say, guys, it took me 44 years to do that. Like this is probably the first year that I could honestly say that I love myself. Don't get me wrong. I still have my days just like I had yesterday and part of today where I was hating on myself, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's a lot easier for me to get back on track. I don't generally let myself go through extended periods of time because I know there's things that you can do. But if we stay in that pity state and we continue, it's a compounding effect. It builds, and it's much more difficult to get out of it. So self-love, it is little. When she told me about the topic of the show, I thought this is probably the most important thing. And I don't think it's just important to females. I think it's important equally to males, although they probably don't talk about it as much as we females do. But yeah, it's critical.
I agree. And so for me, I had similar, I was always looking at the outside as well. And, I looked to food, but really for me, and there were periods in my 20s that I drank too much, but I really gravitated toward relationships that I was trying to fulfill myself through those relationships, and superficial things mattered to me in the relationships. And of course, because I didn't value my worth, I chose partners who weren't going to value my worth either. And then I was fighting and scraping and begging for their attention. It was such a toxic cycle for many years. Like I would say a decade, 15 years. I'd say about 15 years. Really, it was such a detriment. And I just kept picking the same partner. They had a different name, but I will say they were all handsome. I'll give them that. And it wasn't as if, that's not to denigrate any of those gentlemen, because, I'm friends with some of them even today. It's just that relationship, I wasn't whole. So, they didn't reciprocate. They were reciprocating. Actually, they probably were reciprocating what I was giving them. I was a desperate person, and I was, I gave too much, and I wasn't appreciated for those things because, we talk about it, Amber, in the coaching. If you're giving things, and when I'm saying this, I don't mean this in a physical sense. So Justin, I'm not referring to that. But when you're giving things away for free, your time, your attention, gifting people, and, all of the things that I was doing to prove how great partner I was, really, they didn't have time to value myself. And somebody described it to me as I was so overwhelming, and you're right. And so they were underwhelming in response. And I think that I learned such a great lesson, but it took me a very, very long time, decades, to learn it as well.
Yeah, I did the whole superficial looking on the outside, and to be honest, they are giving us back our energy that we're given. I had a girlfriend recently that she's not in a great mental state, but she had started dating a guy, and at the first date, she sent me a text. She's like, "I found the one." I'm like, maybe don't make that decision yet. And so after a week, he broke it off with her. Now, my theory, although I haven't been able to really pull this out of her, is that she is so desperate to have a boyfriend. Like she just wants that significant other. And I get it, guys. I have been single for more years in my adulthood than I have been with somebody. But I did that by choice. So in early 2003, I was engaged and was working on my PhD at the time. And I honestly just kind of put him on the back burner. And I thought that he would just wait, you know what I'm saying? That his needs weren't, I was in my 20s and it's all about me. So he didn't. and devastated me, just broke my heart. And it put me into my first clinical depression for a couple years. I swore off men at that point. I don't need them. I don't ever want to feel this heartache again. It's miserable. I'm independent. I can do this on my own. So I'm not encouraging anybody to have that attitude, because I do believe that life is meant to be spent with somebody. Like, everybody has a mate out there, whether it's a significant other or a good friend, but life is meant to be spent with somebody and share, what good is it to achieve these great riches and, have these exciting trips if you don't have that person to share it with. I believe that nobody completes you. If you don't go to the relationship whole, you're not going to get a whole person from them. So there is no person, place, or thing that is ever going to make you happy in the long term. It's kind of like getting a new car. They'll change your state. They'll change your personality for a week, maybe a month, but then it's going to be back to the same old thing. So make sure that you are 100% happy with and by yourself. You don't have to have that other person. Then when you meet that other person that you enjoy spending time with, they're not taking from you and you're not taking from their lack of, you're just filling each other up.
I agree. I say the same thing. I say a very similar thing. I say that relationships aren't meant to complete our lives. They're meant to enhance our lives.
Oh, I like that better. I like that better.
And I think too, we always hear that, and I do take cause with this when people say, love doesn't make you happy, and another person doesn't make you happy, but they make your life happier. They're not going to, so I think that that's another thing. And I've spoken about this before when they say, money doesn't bring you happiness, but it certainly makes it a lot easier to get there.
Right about that. Yeah. Whoever said money doesn't buy happiness hasn't given enough of it away, which is kind of like, having that significant other when you have that.
And we're taking donations. So I think that that's something to be mindful of. So, and I love Justin. If you really understand this, Justin, if you understand this at a young age, then I think you got the key. You have the key to happiness, Justin: self-love and mindset. So if you can get yourself there and be mindful of that as your life progresses. And Justin and I were speaking about relationships yesterday, and he made a very wise decision. And he, he's in the age where peer pressure can come into your life, and he really stood up for what he believed in, and he did not succumb to that. So great. Randy's here. It's great to see Randy. Hey, ladies, I know I'm late, but better than not at all. That is true. We were just recapping and talking about your progress. So give us an update on your progress, Randy, or you can even hop on the live stream if you want. We have 5 more minutes. But I don't know if you're just waking up. You may not want to. But tell us how you're doing. And, I've had and actually Randy and I have been accountability partners. So we have been keeping track of each other's progress. He's been keeping me on task. And that's one of the things I was going to speak to you about the community. We're actually going to do some virtual hiking this weekend because Randy's out there. He's out there and he doesn't have a workout buddy and a workout companion. So we're going to do it virtually.
That's great.
He's going to, yeah. So that's our next step in accountability. And I think that we can elaborate on that next week in the community. So it says it would take him too long for it to get on because he just woke up. So tell us how you're doing. I mean, Amber would love to hear about the energy drinks and the soda, and give her an update on that.
I hope I would love to hear it.
Yeah, she's going to be proud of you as I am.
If he is eliminated or even decreased that, I am already proud, because that's a very strong addiction. It's real, especially with shift work. So, when I was doing some research today, I was looking into just the obstacles that shift work, because I know Randy has, shift work, and that's probably the biggest detriment to our sleeping problem is that when, we have that circadian rhythm, but yet we're due to go to work when all the lights are shutting down. So it can be more difficult. So I'm happy to hear that he has ditched those.
All right. So here, I'm going to bring it up.
You're over the hump, buddy. You are over the hump.
My progress is steady. Water and coffee are his only 2 drinks, and it's been 2 weeks so far. So I'm so proud of him. He's doing better than I am, I think. So that's something. So I think that we're going to incorporate the movement. So this weekend we're going to get going on that. And so that'll be another great step in the right direction. So we're looking for, all we were asking for was progress, not perfection. And Randy's exceeding our expectations. He's an overachiever. So that's great. And
Randy, I'm
you know,
curious. He said he's craving soda. Are you craving the carbonation? Is that what you're craving, or is it the actual taste? Because if it's the carbonation, there's some other alternatives that you can look in that would give you just that fizzy feeling.
And he has been drinking the water drop, so he does have some taste. But I'm not sure. He doesn't know. He's not sure if it's the carbonation or the taste.
Okay.
But I think that the water drops are tasty, so he has been trying that. So maybe it is the carbonation, and it could just be the habit. It's really he's not at the point yet where he's broken the habit. I believe that. I mean, all the studies I read, and correct me if you may have heard something else, but that at the 3-week point is really when you begin to kind of push that habit to the side and overcome a bit.
If 21 days is what they say, more accurately 66, but 21 days and you really are over the hump. You have started to cement a new behavior in, but apparently at 66 days is when you categorically see a difference in like your thought processes, where you're not thinking about those sodas at that particular time of the day. But I would say 21 days and you're definitely over the hump. But you've already be proud of yourself, pat yourself on the back, because 2 weeks, that first week is probably the most difficult week.
It was. And I think too, I don't know if he went camping. He may be having another camping. So he said he's been drinking soda since he was 12. So it's really probably the habitual, and it's becomes almost part of your identity, I think. Soda really was such a strong component of what you do every day. But I think that we have to remember that people are not their behaviors. So think about, again, it's like the mindset thing that we're a component, and behaviors, healthy or unhealthy, are a component of who we are. But you prove that drinking soda isn't a part of your identity, that it was something that you can overcome. So we're so proud of you.
I would say it's probably the associations, like when people give up smoking, it's not so much it's not the nicotine so much, but it's the associations that are such a strong craving. It's when you get on the phone, or after you get done eating, or you get in the car. So my guess is that you probably had some behaviors linked to when you drank a soda. And it's those associations
Agreed.
that are triggering you, not so much the desire to have it. Coke is infamous for their commercials where they talk about love and family and have a Coke and smile. You know what I'm saying? So it's relationships that they're throwing in there. It's love and connection.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and if you've been drinking it since you were 12, I was going to say the exact same thing. I'm sure it was a family endeavor, because you weren't buying your own soda probably at 12. So everybody, it ties you and binds you to your family unit. So maybe that's part of it as well. So great job. All right. So, and he'll be running he almost broke down and got one, but bought it. So perfect. We would have called it. You wouldn't have been able to tell us on tonight's show. You probably wouldn't have woken up in time. You would have been hiding it from us, but good job. Good job. And now I can't wait for everybody to hear.
I'm really proud of you. I'm going to say that. I'm so proud of you. I honestly did not think that you would leave the energy drinks and the soda. The last time you were on the show, you were so hardwired to those, and especially with shift work, because you have a whole other obstacle in there that a lot of us don't deal with. So, you're fighting against those circadian rhythms. So I cannot tell you how proud I am. I cannot believe it. Thank you. Keep going.
Yeah. So you're our shining star, Randy. Thank goodness you came on tonight. And I can't think of any better way to end the show than to have Randy give us that update. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So I'm gonna throw it to you, Amber.
Community.
All right, perfect. Community. That's going to be a great one. And I'm going to say, I look and feel healthier every time I'm sharing the screen with you, Amber. So thank you.
Thank you
for bringing me on as the co-host. And yeah,
I like your background. And of course, I like it. I like the new background.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Remember I'll talk to you about it later. Remember it was that screen I showed you a long time ago with the wood.
Mhm.
But so great. So Chris, and as usual, I always like to play it out and thank Chris as well. He's the best producer we have out there, so we couldn't do a show without Chris. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week, and we'll see you in the Facebook group this week. We're going to get that going. We're going to be on TikTok. Who knows? I'm exploring all different kinds of social media. Maybe we're going to be on LinkedIn. Maybe we'll even have a YouTube channel. So we got big things coming in for tips and tricks. So we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Chris. You can play us out.